الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. وأما من أوتي كتابه بشماله فيقول يا ليتني لم أوت كتابيه ولم أدر ما حسابيه، يا ليتها كانت القاضية، ما أغنى عني ماليه، هلك عني سلطانيه، خذوه فغلوه ثم الجحيم صلوه، ثم في سلسلة ذرعها 70 ذراعا فاسلكوه، إنه كان لا يؤمن بالله العظيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين، فليس له اليوم هاهنا حميم، ولا طعام إلا من غسلين، لا يأكله إلا الخاطئون، فلا أقسم بما تبصرون وما لا تبصرون، إنه لقول رسول كريم، وما هو بقول شاعر، قليلا ما تؤمنون، ولا بقول كاهن، قليلا ما تذكرون، تنزيل من رب العالمين. ولو تقول علينا بعض الأقاويل لأخذنا منه باليمين، ثم لقطعنا منه الوتين، فما منكم من أحد عنه حاجزين، وإنه لتذكرة للمتقين، وإنا لنعلم أن منكم مكذبين، وإنه لحسرة على الكافرين، وإنه لحق اليقين، فسبح باسم ربك العظيم. الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim wa salatu wa salam wa ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem, my dear brothers and sisters. For those who don't know me, my name is Wilfredo Ruiz. I am the Communications Director for the Council on American Islamic Relations, what we commonly know as CARE Florida. Together with me is Sister Mary Marks. She's with the sister side. She's our newly appointed manager for the policy department. I am the Communications Department Director. We are with our Executive Director, who's going to close this short talk we're going to have with you with some words, Imam Abdullah Jabir. My dear brothers and sisters, I'm going to be brief. I'm going to take 3 minutes, and Brother the Imam is going to take 5. So it's going to be 8 minutes. We're not going to take longer than that. 23 years ago, some brothers, mainly from South Florida, Muslim brothers, got together and they thought that establishing a chapter of CARE in the state of Florida was a good idea. What happened 23 years ago, brothers and sisters? September 11. So after September 11 happened, these brothers got together and they foresaw that our community, as a product of that event, will be generationally discriminated. They will be persecuted. They will not be acknowledged as part of the whole of this American society. And imagine if they had that vision, because this is exactly what happened after September 11. When I arrived to this organization almost 12 years ago, we did not have a single attorney on board. I was the first attorney who stepped into a CARE office in South Florida. Alhamdulillah, later we were blessed, but at the same time, we had attorneys in Tampa, we have attorneys in Naples, we eventually had attorneys in Orlando, because our organization, at the beginning, for the first 10 years, it was only an advocacy organization. So if you came to our office with a problem, we were able to help you, but limited. Why? Because as an advocate, we can only write a letter, put some media pressure, and that was it. But from that time on, when we created the legal department, now our organization grew teeth. Now, we will not only advocate for you, we had attorneys ready to litigate from immigration courts, civil courts, up to the Supreme Court, that the Imam is going to tell you something about the Supreme Court and a case we just won there. All these had been possible, first, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And second, because the community decided to support these initial brothers financially so that we could provide the services we provide, as we provide today, for free. Listen, every client that has stepped, of the over 1,000 clients, hundreds of families we have helped in the last 23 years, all for free. So that individual that the FBI put a business card in their windshield, they felt comfortable having an organization to respond to their call without being worried, I need to get $10,000 as a retainer for an attorney to represent me in this situation. So we are that organization that keeps representing the Muslims where they need it the most. We are the ones that answer the phone for the mother when their child is bullied at school. We are the ones that answer the call of the brother who, after deciding to wear a thobe or a kufi or praying at work or asking for his time to go to Hajj, they start being discriminated. We are the organization that picks up the phone and help that brother that is delayed in the airport for 5-6 hours. We are the only organization in Florida that does that for our community. I encourage you, before I pass the microphone, to help build resilient communities. Last time I was here, you know the status of your mosque? It was totally destroyed by the hurricane. That was the last time I was physically here. I saw this masjid with total destruction. So seeing this masjid here as it is today is a proof of this community's resilience. Our communities are strong as our mosques. Our communities are strong as our schools. Our communities are as strong as the institutions they have in place to protect them. Inshallah, the Imam is going to update you with more recent cases and a plea for you, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. By the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're able to fight back, stand against federal government, stand against policies, because the Muslim community is coming together. And the recent incidents of 10/7 have stepped up and expedited certain conversations that I want to briefly highlight. But first and foremost, imagine an organization that fights a single case for 20 years. 20 years we fought the federal government by the grace of Allah against the watch list. Raise your hand if you are aware of what the watch list is. The watch list is a list of names, predominantly Muslim, actually I should say only Muslims. It even includes 3-year-old children who don't know why they were placed on the watch list to begin with. We fought the federal government for 20 years, and recently, by the grace of Allah, we won the case in the US Supreme Court, Takbir. 9-0. Every single justice said this is unconstitutional because the federal government was saying, well, we put their name on the list, you didn't like it, we removed it, the case is moot, the case is dead, you don't have a case anymore. We said, no. What you did in the beginning to put someone's name on a list unknown to them, why? That is unconstitutional. That is unconstitutional. Removing their name doesn't solve the problem. What was the criteria? How does he know he's not going to be placed on the list again? How do I know my family's not going to be put? So alhamdulillah, 9-0 now means we can move further fighting against the watch list or anything similar to it in the future. That's the investment in Care Florida. I'll give you another example when we talk about what's happening in Gaza. Dr. Maha al-Masri, who is a Palestinian woman, a PhD, she taught at the #1 prep school in Florida, in South Florida. She posted something on her private social media criticizing the state and the political party of the Zionist Israel state. Guess what? Her employer fired her. It's a private employer, they have the right to do so. There isn't much we can do legally. But you know what they did? Her son, Jad was in 10th grade. He's been in that school since 1st grade to 10th grade. What would happen if your son gets expelled in 10th grade? His college is in jeopardy. His future is in jeopardy from a prep school. Most likely other prep schools are not going to accept him. They expelled Jad. Why did they expel him? Guilt of association. He's his mother's son. Duh, he's his mother's son. They expelled him. By the grace of Allah, we tried to push legally. They didn't want to put the #1, think of it, connect the dots. South Florida, #1 prep school, who do you think is behind the scenes? Okay? They had millions to spend. They weren't listening to our threats, litigation threats. So when the court of law doesn't work, where do we go? The court of public opinion. Immediately, I called Brother Wilfred, I said, call every single major news station. We called ABC, NBC, CBS, Telemundo, Univision, every single major TV station in our South Florida office, and we blasted them. The one thing a prep school does not want is to tarnish their prestige and reputation. As soon as that happened that evening, our managing attorney, Omar Saleh, started receiving emails and calls. Let's sit and talk. Again, that's investing in Care Florida by the grace of Allah. But let's expedite what I stood here about 3 months ago, and I shared with you that what's happening right now, Ahbab, we can march, we can protest, but that's still defense. We can more than 20 people lost their jobs that we are aware of. We have 17 of them get their jobs back, many of them in the medical profession. But is that offense or defense? You just help somebody get their job back. That's still defense. We're still just trying to replace status quo. Everything that we are doing is defense. It is time for us to build an offense. That's the promise we made 3 months ago. I stood here with our team and I made a promise by the grace of Allah. We hired a policy team. You can meet Mary when you step outside. She's our policy manager. We have a team. We fought in Tallahassee. Imagine this. Muslims have been in Florida for decades and decades. For the first time, more than 500,000 Muslims, they have never been represented in Tallahassee in the legislative session. We hired a policy team. We engaged in the policy session by the grace of Allah in Tallahassee, the only organization to do so. We fought back against a few bills. Let me just highlight one for you. There's one particular bill that was defining anti-Semitism using the IRA definition, which meant even if you criticize Israel, you could lose your job. Even if you criticize Israel or the political party, you could lose your job. You could be titled as an anti-Semite and you could be charged with a hate crime. Imagine that, hate speech, hate crime. We fought against it by the grace of Allah. Within 2 months, just 2 months of lobbying both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans, because we learned one lesson from all of this is what? None of them will work for you. You have to work on both sides. We lobbied both sides. We're in Tallahassee for the first time, and we amended the bill on the Senate side, takbir. You know what that means? Let me give you an example why that amendment is. This is offense. We amended that bill. We worked with Dems and Republicans. We amended that bill. Recently, there was a Muslim brother fired in Pasco County by his employer because he was criticizing Israel. But guess what? They could not charge him with hate speech. They could not charge him with hate crime because what? We amended the bill bifadlillah. Another one, which went to criminalize anyone that was in support of the state of Israel. Anyone in support of a terrorist organization. The language of that bill was so vague, Islamic schools could be penalized by it. Students in college campuses could be penalized by it. We fought against that bill by the grace of Allah. That bill was killed. It didn't see the light of day. Allahu Akbar. Imagine your schools, your masajid, your students. Students would lose, they would lose their in-state tuition. They'd have to pay out of state. That was if they were supporting a terrorist organization. If they were foreign students, they would lose their visas. What do you think is the purpose? The purpose is to shut you up. That's the purpose. When Governor DeSantis was going around in his presidential debate and saying that, we are shutting down SJP, we're shutting down terrorist organizations, who sued Governor DeSantis? Who sued Governor DeSantis? Care Florida. We sued Governor DeSantis by the grace of Allah. And the Chancellor of University, and guess what they said? Oh, no, we were just saying, we didn't shut them down because they realized what? That it's unconstitutional, they cannot shut us down, and if they do, we will take them to court. So the case was dismissed in our favor, alhamdulillah. SJP still stands. Students right now are still protesting by the grace of Allah. And remember, the cause of Gaza is not a cause of Gaza, it's the cause of the Muslim community, of the Ummah, of any minority in America, by the grace of Allah. So if what I'm saying is moving you, and you think this is important, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open your heart to support Care Florida. We're building a policy so we can be on the offense, ahbab. Offense. I was looking at the children outside and I was telling Brother Ofedo that I hope, and I was telling Dr. Mohsen as well, I hope that these children don't have to deal with the issue that we are dealing with. That there's not one minority that's bending our government to its will, a foreign entity. So ahbab, we have envelopes with us. Whatever it is, mashallah, some of you can give 25,000, some of you can give 10,000, some of you 5, some of you 500, whatever it is, ahbab. Protecting the Muslim community is fard kifaya when we are a minority. It's an obligation. Legislation that comes out doesn't affect somebody who's Pakistani or somebody who's Palestinian. It affects all of us. That's why building an offense is our main focus right now. Care Florida, we're going to continue, but we're establishing a C4 that's going to come back to you inshallah in a few months. We're going to tell you what's happening in your elections. We're going to tell you and remind you that yes, the presidential elections are important, but what's more important, Joe Biden and Trump, at the end of the day, they cut off from the same cloth, okay? But what's more important is your city council, your county commission, your school district, your state officials. Those are more important. We will work with you, with Sheikh Amr, inshallah, to highlight, for you to understand where your priorities lie when it comes to local legislation, local bills, inshallah, and who to vote for, inshallah, bifadlillah. So that's what we're going to be doing as we move forward. So I hope, inshallah, when you step out, you'll consider supporting Care Florida bifadlillah, because when you talk about standing in the front lines to protect the Muslim community, it's Care Florida. Day in, day out. Barakallah feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaykum assalam. Jazakallah khair, Shaykh Abdullah. Barakallah feek. I got it. Thank you very much. Please support them, inshallah. We have we received a few questions regarding the waqf, the endowment fund yesterday. First of all, I would like to thank the whole community. It was beautiful, mashallah, as usual. Jazakumullah khair. It was even more than what we expected. We collected around 400 yesterday, mashallah, between big takbir, between Jum'ah and the night, mashallah. And I have a couple of checks. People still bring in, mashallah, the money. So, yes. So, inshallah, continue to fill out. But I thought to invite a few of our board members to answer your questions, because we never got the chance to give you guys the chance to ask questions. So feel free to ask them questions, inshallah. I think Dr. Ihab or somebody's going to brief us now.
Okay, thank you, brother. Okay, assalamu alaikum. We want to thank everyone for their commitments last night. Mashallah, it was a great number that we had in the end. Yesterday, we didn't have a chance to talk about any questions that anyone may have, but to just give a brief description about what an endowment is, just because I was approached by several of our community members. So an endowment is money that's allocated and it's put into an account and used to invest for the purpose of getting the profits to be used for expenses for the masjid. The most important thing about the waqf is that the principle is never dissolved. So whatever money is put in on behalf of everyone in these shares, it will remain as long as the endowment is there, inshallah. And what's important for the community to understand is that this endowment has its own bylaws and its own set of bylaws that we will be voting on, inshallah, in the month of May. The General Assembly will be voting on. Independent from the Bay County Islamic Society. The Bay County Islamic Society will be overseeing it, but there's a complete separate committee for this, inshallah. So this is what's important for everyone to understand, is that this is money that will be held in place, and the only time that it will be dissolved, it will be reinvested again in assets, hard assets. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is people can gift anything. You can gift cars, you can gift stocks, you can transfer stocks. People are asking about stocks being transferred. You can donate gold. Any property of value can be given to the waqf, inshallah. And the wills, the other important thing is the wills. We will, inshallah, have attorneys that will come, Muslim attorneys that will come and help the community. We'll set up workshops to help with setting up wills for the community. And you can include the waqf in the will, inshallah. There are waqfs that have been around for thousands of years. We use examples even here in the US. We have Harvard, we have Yale. We're talking, their endowments are in the 45 billions. So, you know, the numbers alhamdulillah, we collected last night, just to give you a perspective, it's large numbers, but in the end, we're reaping probably about 3 to 5, 6% returns. So when we have numbers like $10 million, you're probably going to be able to extract about 3%, because some of your returns you want to reinvest back into the waqf itself. You cannot drain the waqf. So that's important for everyone to understand. Any questions so far? Yes. Yes, separate committee, inshallah. It has its own bylaws. The first committee will be assigned by the board. The following ones, the committee itself will be choosing its own members. Independent, the board members, the president and the treasurer of the board can attend but have no vote. And we'll present this to the community, inshallah, for voting before it's in place. Currently, from the previous funds that we had about 100,000. It was placed in NATE, and there's probably about a 6% return. But that was a recent thing that. No. This is going to be mostly used in real estate and also Islamic funds, whether it's mutual funds or stocks. NATE does this, but we think we can have better returns based on examples that we've seen from around the country. We've been in touch with one of the biggest endowments in the country, Raleigh, North Carolina, and they, mashallah, are managing their own funds.
So that will, the money will continue to grow, inshallah.
Any other questions? Yes, the mesh. So the question is, if someone donates a property such as a house for rent, will the masjid maintain the property? Yes, we will have a property manager, especially obviously if it's local here, it will be much easier. And we will maintain the property and reap the income from it into the account. No, it will be under Bay County Islamic Society. We're trying to create our own endowment entity.
And there's actually a brother who reached out to me yesterday who stated that he's gonna, inshallah, donate the earnings from an investment property that he has, which would amount to about $20,000 to $25,000 for the masjid.
On an annual basis.
Yeah, on an annual basis.
We also have one more announcement, and Jazakallah khair, Dr. Kamil yesterday with his contribution. But one thing was also not mentioned, that Dr. Kamil has also contributed in his life the 5 acres next to the cemetery as well for the community, inshallah. So, Jazakallah khair. May Allah reward him and his family. Jazakallah.
So if you guys don't know, it's on 77. So that area is all being developed now. So where we have the cemetery, it used to just be, forest, but now if you look onto 20, they're expanding the roads and they're building out there. So it's only a matter of time.
The other thing you guys need to understand is if you gift something to the waqf, it's a tax write-off. So the masjid can give you a tax write-off for this as well. So this is another tax benefit, worldly benefit, but tax benefit. Any questions? No, there will not be any fees for managing the fund, no. Unless you put it in a Islamic mutual fund, which Osama can elaborate, they do charge some fees if you do put it in an outside fund, correct?
And the goal is to diversify the funds, so not all in one thing.
But for the real estate, if there is any fees, Brother Salah, if there's any fees for the managing, we may have to pay management fees. And that's usually covered within, so you still maintain your profits of about 1%
usually management fees?
For mutual funds. Yeah, so usually. So that was not put in a fund. That was only put in a fund just in the past year. So if you recall from when they collected this was collected and nothing, and they were supposed to actually establish the endowment. The whole endowment, waqf, never did exist. So this is the first time, alhamdulillah. Any other questions? Anything else you want to add? No? Jazakumullah khair. Up front, we do have a table. We do have a table for the endowment. If you guys want to just confirm the amounts, the shares that you requested, put your cell number and your email. We also have a census sheet. If you guys were trying to create a census for the entire community, it'll take you 1 minute to fill out. This is a separate matter, not with the endowment. So if you guys stop by the next couple of days, we're going to be outside. Jazakumullah khair.
Again, if you have any questions regarding this, we have very smart people here in our community. We have people who are managing big funds, and all of you, many of us are investing with them. We have a lot of us having rental units and other projects, and we are trying to move in the masjid here, the idea moving from just give us money, into having some money and investing it for the masjid, just like we do for ourselves. I have some investment myself. You have. Many of us have. So why don't we do it for the masjid, having all of these smart people, mashallah, and generous donors? So this is the main idea. If you have any questions or suggestions, please talk to any of the board members right there, and they can answer the question. They can receive your input, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Brother Yahya.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to take much of your time, but really I want to tell you a little bit about AMP, American Muslims for Palestine. It was an organization that was created in 2006 and went to DC in 2015. Its main purpose is to fill a void to help Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims
to seek justice and make education, educate the people, educate students, and help grassroots organizations to work and educate about the justice in the world and the Palestinian problem. So they have an offshoot organization that they did as well. It's called AGP, American Justice or Americans for Justice for Palestine, and it's an advocacy group that works to advocate in Washington, D.C. So as you see, us as Muslims, we don't want to just watch Al Jazeera, and thumble our thumbs and cry. We also have to do actions. So we have to be the slaves of Allah that could do work and action, and that's mainly by education through AMP. Okay, so AMP helps a lot, like grassroots organizations, like for example, the one we have in Panama City, which is the Panhandle for Justice, and other organizations through the Panhandle and down in Tampa, Orlando, and the South. AMP provide us a platform that we can work and advocate and collect even funds so that we can fund our trips and whatnot. For example, the protest that happened in DC, the biggest one, that about 400,000 people came to that one, it was created and led by American Muslims for Palestine. So this is something really important that I just want to make you aware of. We're starting to work with them, and they are trying to grow in Florida, and hopefully they're established themselves as a permanent chapter here in Florida. So it's education, advocacy, and also they have a yearly conference that they do. A lot of things, they have a lot of achievements that they did throughout the years. A lot of them changes of the policies, like for example, the policy of the visa waiver in Palestine, about the bills that are happening now to supporting Israel and Zionism. They also worked on a lot of projects with other Muslims that are suffering from injustice. They worked with the Uyghur, a project with the Uyghur in East Turkestan in China, West China. They worked with the people in Kashmir and Muslims in India, and also with the Rohingya Muslims in Burma. So please read about it, know more, and inshallah we'll come to you with more information and presentation about this. And then you can donate to it as well, and it's tax deductible. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
الله الله أكبر.
الله الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
Assalamu alaikum. We have the tahajjud inshallah tonight as usual, 3:30. Join us inshallah. If you're planning to come, you might join us for the tahajjud, for the witr later. Also tomorrow is a big night inshallah because we will finish the Quran, Khatmul Quran tomorrow night inshallah in Isha, in Taraweeh after Isha. So join us inshallah and invite your friends and join us bi'idhnillah. Also the Quran award ceremony tomorrow in the mid-Taraweeh section inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
ولذنوبنا ممحصا وعن النار مخلصا. اللهم كنا بالقرآن من النار إلى الجنة ومن الظلمات إلى النور ومن الفقر إلى الغنى ومن الشقاء إلى السعادة ومن الضلالة إلى الهدى ومن الفرقة والخلاف إلى الاجتماع والاعتصام يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله أنيسنا في محشر القبور واجعله شفيعنا يوم العرض والنشور يا عزيز يا غفور. اللهم نجح عبادك المستضعفين في كل مكان يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين وفي غزة يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر المجاهدين في سبيلك يا رب العالمين. اللهم وحد صفوفهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم أيدهم بجند من جندك يا قوي يا عزيز. اللهم عليك بمن خذلهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم عليك بأعدائهم ومن أعانهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعلهم وأهلهم وأولادهم غنيمة للمسلمين يا رب العالمين. اللهم احفظنا من بين أيدينا ومن خلفنا وعن أيماننا وعن شمائلنا ومن فوقنا ونعوذ بعظمتك أن نغتال من تحتنا. اللهم آمن روعاتنا واستر عوراتنا يا رب العالمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم يا مصرف القلوب صرف قلوبنا على طاعتك. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم اجبر كسرنا على ثواب هذا الشهر الكريم يا رب العالمين. اللهم بلغنا ليلة القدر واجعلنا ممن اعتق رقبته يا رب العالمين. اللهم اعتق رقابنا ورقاب آبائنا وأمهاتنا وأجدادنا وأزواجنا وذرياتنا ومشايخنا وأساتذتنا ولمن كان له حق علينا وجميع المسلمين من النار يا رب العالمين. اللهم لا تدع لنا في مقامنا هذا إلا ذنبا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته ولا مبتلا إلا عافيته يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا لنا إخوانا في جاليتنا لهم أسرار فيا رب اشفيهم شفاء لا يغادر سقما يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم ارحمنا وكن معنا فأنت بنا راحم ولا تعذبنا فأنت علينا قادر. اللهم أغثنا اللهم أغثنا يا مغيث أغثنا وأغث جميع المسلمين يا رب العالمين. اللهم هذا الدعاء ومنك الإجابة وهذا الجهد وعليك الكفلان ولا حول لنا ولا قوة إلا بك. وصل اللهم وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.